One of the biggest narcissistic injuries comes off the back of the narcissist underestimating you and then suffering the consequences of that. And what I mean is, if you're in the narcissist's life, then you're there to fulfill their agenda. You're there to meet their needs. You're there to supply them. Narcissists, they're takers, they're not givers. Maybe at the beginning when you first got together with them, maybe they were investing more in you, maybe they were idealizing you. So you received a lot more of the positive things. They were showering you with their attention, affection, gifts, and so on. But over time, that slowly gets withdrawn, and the best you get are breadcrumbs, alternated with lots of just exhaustion, them draining you and just using you to get their needs met. In narcissists, one of the cornerstones of narcissism, and one of the ways they can get away with so much when it comes to using people, is they make those people dependent on them. And when they're with you at the beginning, they try to work out where are the leverage points where they can get you dependent on them. Is it an emotional dependency because maybe you come from a history where you never really had your emotional needs met, and all of a sudden they seem like the perfect person to meet those needs. So maybe they figured, okay, that's the hook they're going to put into you. Or maybe they know you want stability, you want security. So maybe they're giving you a home, maybe they're even getting you financially dependent on them. Or maybe they're multiple hooks. The bottom line is, narcissists, they look for the hook they can throw at you so that once they have that hook in you, they can devalue you, use you to fulfill their agenda in all other ways. And in their mind, you'll just stick around because you won't be able to simply leave because you'll be giving up too much. Narcissists, they want to be able to take and use people as much as they can, but at the same time, they want to be seen in the other person's eyes as someone that the other person is not willing to give up. And that's how they trick you into staying. Because they want to be seen as somebody who's just too much. You'd have too much to lose by going off. And that's why narcissists, their favorite targets are people who suffer certain types of trauma, certain types of, emotional deprivation, or just, certain wounds where they know how to leverage that to their advantage. And what they then do is they start weakening you. So if you're somebody who's emotionally dependent or somebody who struggles to, have the confidence to keep a good job down and progress your career to be well off financially, what narcissists do is they will weaken you over time. They will make you doubt yourself over time. They will gaslight you so much that you never really have clarity over your own thoughts. It means if you go to work, you're not quite as productive. If you're trying to plan for the future, it's all a bit more shaky and uncertain. You don't trust your own judgment. And by weakening you in that sense, the narcissist knows that you're less likely to jump ship, and you're more likely to stick around to meet their needs and their agenda. Even if they decide they have other people on the side, and they might be having flings, they might have secondary supplies, for example, to be cheating on you. But in their mind, even if you were to catch them, you probably wouldn't leave because you really have nowhere to go. They also like isolating you. So, by knowing your vulnerabilities, your wounds, they get you dependent on them, and then they weaken you, and they also isolate you from other people. And it makes it such that you see them as your best prospect. So you don't really see an alternative, a way out. So they get very confident. Narcissists get very confident that you'll stick around for a long, long time. And if you ever do leave, it'll probably be, at some point in the future where they no longer care because they've just used you for all you have to offer and they really couldn't care less about you. But where narcissists get caught out is this overconfidence. Because narcissists, they like to control people. They like to have power over people in that sense. And where they become their own worst enemy is they start underestimating people. They think they can keep you weak forever. They think they can keep you dependent forever, or at least as long as they want. They think they call all the shots. They think if you ever leave, it's going to be on their watch, not yours. And that's where narcissists, they start, ignoring their own shortcomings, their own misjudgments. You know, sometimes you start to realize what you're dealing with and you start to know your self-worth again. The moment you start realizing who you're dealing with and you start realizing that you deserve more, even if you're broken down and dependent at that point in time, if you give you a few weeks, months, you can start to slowly build yourself back up and plan your escape. And narcissists sometimes, even if they see the signs, narcissists are the kind of people where even if they see the signs that you're about to escape or you're about to, say you've had enough and you're just going to go your own way, they'll tell themselves, they'll notice the signs and then they'll tell themselves, nah, this person's never going to leave. They can't make it on their own. They need me way too much. I'm the best thing that's ever happened to them. And because narcissists have this grandiose view of themselves, then they believe their own lies. It's kind of like their intuition tells them that they're going a bit too far, but their pride and ego say, nah, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. This person can't leave without me. They'll never have somebody as good as me, and so on. But when the person does leave, when the person does say they've had enough, narcissists, they reach that point where they don't really have a leg to stand on. Because narcissists, when people leave them too soon, all they can really do is, if you're still giving them physical airtime, they might say something, I was just joking, or sometimes they play it off and teasing like you're too sensitive. But if they see that you're not taking their bait and you're serious about moving on, they don't really have a leg to stand on. Because sometimes they'll panic and they'll apologize and pretend that they'll change or something. They'll kind of go into this mode where all of a sudden they see your value, etc. But oftentimes as well, what happens is narcissists, they simply just kind of watch and they tell themselves, oh, you'll be back. And that happens a lot. Narcissists kind of think, oh, you want to go? Okay, fine, go. Or they play it down. And then one day's gone, 2 days passed, etc. A week's passed, 2 weeks passed, and you're not coming back to them. You're not wanting them back. And all of a sudden the narcissist thinks, this isn't really going according to plan. There's a real problem here. They're running short on supply, and they're losing their power over you, and they're realizing that the trauma bond, the dependencies of you on them are breaking and slowly fading away. And all of a sudden they're thinking, okay, they have a real issue. Because if they continue like that much longer, they're not going to have their basic needs met, because narcissists, they need somebody to regulate them. The reason that they were with you for so long was because you were tried and tested and you did the job. The narcissist going about, on their day-to-day, maybe certain family members, people at work, friends, most of those people, if you were their primary supply figure, most of those people wouldn't be able to supply them in the same way you did. The dynamic doesn't work in the same way. So the narcissists, they start getting this deficit of supply, and then they start getting, in this space where they can't function right. And then they start to realize that they really need you back. But then they're between a rock and a hard place, because they, like I said, they don't really have a leg to stand on, because they're the ones who push you away. And like, what are they going to say, that they were wrong? So it gets really tricky. But then that's where narcissists, they trying to find alternative supplies. And if they did have an alternative supply lined up, then they might be in a good place for a while. Few people can supply the narcissist well for more than a couple of months. It's just one of those things. Few people can really keep the narcissist feeling good about themselves for more than a few months. Sometimes just a few weeks. So even if they had an alternative supply, or they're looking for one, it's very difficult for them to find somebody who will stick with them long term like you did. It's easier for them to find people who they might have a kind of a short fling with or something that doesn't really work out, because the person doesn't really want to stick with the narcissist long term. What they really struggle with are people who can actually regulate them on a sustained basis. So narcissists, they really do become their own worst enemies in a sense. They really take people for granted. They think that they've hook the people in so deep that the person can never leave them, which of course can't be further from the truth. Because some people do become enlightened. They do realize something's off about the person, even if they got self-esteem, self-worth, self-respect issues. Sometimes people can gain enough of those traits sufficiently for them to think, you know what, I can do better. And that's what narcissists think nobody can ever do. Narcissists think that in your eyes, you can never do better than them. But when you realize you can do better than them, and you take your things and you go, they're left bewildered, surprised, and so often they don't know how to respond. Thanks for watching.